Hello, everyone. Just giving people a couple minutes to join. Hey. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our pitch deck teardown. So we do these about once a month or once a quarter now. It's a learning opportunity for all of you to see some peers, go through pitch decks, and get live feedback from Jonah. So we have 3 decks that were chosen today. I believe they're all here. And Jonah will be providing direct feedback to the founders, but then also providing more high-level feedback for you all to build your pitch decks going forward, and just some like tips and tricks and like best practices for how to approach certain problems. We will be taking questions throughout, and you'll get a recording of this at the end. So you can go in the chat function at the bottom of your screen there and chat any questions that you have if you want to ask them live, or I think there's a little reaction thing that you can put like your hand up if you have questions, and we'll try to get to them as much as possible. So what will happen is each of the founders will present for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then Jonah will give maybe 5-10 minutes of feedback and go through in that way. So yeah, if there's any questions, I'll hand it over to Jonah right now.
Hi, everyone. First off, thank you so much for your time. I know as founders, you are insanely busy, so I very much appreciate it. As Maggie said, really excited to go through some of this, and just I've been on your side of the table for a long time, so I know how hard it is to do this, and I know how brave it is to get up in front of a bunch of people to do this. So thank you. And as Maggie mentioned, for anyone that's got any questions, please pop them in the chat, and I will get to them.
Great. So without further ado, do we have Victor? Are you here?
Oh, first one up. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I guess if you can give me a little maybe idea of how you want me to kind of go through this. Do you want me to just load it up, share the screen?
Yeah, would it be great? Yeah, just share your screen. Let's do like 5 minutes, run it through fast. I know that's fast, but that's something I want everyone to get in the habit of, is being able to tell your story reasonably quickly. And then I'll go through some feedback.
Cool. Yeah. No, this is great. It's actually funny. I guess I've never really, I've had a couple of these VC calls, but none of them have been just walking through the deck. So, this will be a first, and let me know if I'm going too slow, too fast, or I don't know, talking too much.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Any feedback is always good at feedback. So my name is Victor. I'm the CEO here at Trestle, and we are specifically construction tech. We are managing the construction contract and procurement process, which right now is pretty fragmented. It's a process where the contractors are using a lot of different tools. And so these inefficiencies, just from jumping back and forth between spreadsheets and emails and even paper documents, are causing them, tens of thousands of hours in inefficiencies. And ultimately that translates to, millions of dollars a year that's being lost in just productivity. And so with Trestle, what we're doing is we're going to streamline all of that process, bring the whole contract and procurement process for them under a single roof. This way they can collaborate easily. We have built-in integration tools from the information that they can get from their pre-construction data, from their bid time information. We're also giving them a lot of data transparency, so executives are able to see kind of the progress in real time of how the project is performing. And then ultimately, we're also adding in smart tools and AI, where we're then closing a lot of the contractual gaps in things like they're not learning from past lessons. And so we will give suggestions for contractual terms and stuff like that. A little bit of our team. My background has been in mostly construction. I've spent 15 years there, leading some of the biggest jobs in the country. And then my 2 co-founders are both technical. They've worked for more than a decade each in leading product and tech teams. The overall market here is pretty big. I think for most people, the construction industry isn't really all that sexy or interesting. I would say right there's not any crypto involved here, or a lot of generative AI, which is all the buzz these days. However, it is a very large and antiquated industry, that is really just dying for some tech innovations, and it is obviously growing at a pretty rapid pace. So why now? Why contract and procurement? There's a lot of regulatory mandates that are changing from year to year these days, which is requiring general contractors to give out a lot of their work, which in turn leads to a lot more contracts that needs to be written for each project. And then compounded with the fact that there is a historic low in the amount of available engineers in the civil and construction industry. So now there's a lot more work and there's a lot less people to do it, which then for us, we saw as a prime time to bring in a lot more automation and process innovations. We use our industry connections and talk to over 40 users from 30 different companies to kind of get their feedback and to make sure that we validated our idea. And then ultimately we realized, having a good understanding in the industry gave us a lot of insights into taking our product in the right direction. And so we built that little prototype. We went out to some users and potential customers to give demos. And then the feedback we've gotten back so far has been tremendous, with 3 people already trying to sign on their organizations to be pilot customers, having just seen our prototype demo for a lot more money than what we thought. Just an idea, we are a sales-led strategy company. So our pricing is very much reflective of that. All of our contracts will be enterprise-sized. It's going to be organization-wide integration and usage of the Trestle product. And our go-to-market strategy is also reflective of that, recognizing that this is not a crowded market where there's people just fighting each other to get to the bottom line. And the fact that we do have a very differentiated product from what else is out there is something that we are taking a great focus on. And we can see that from our user discussions, that even the customers are coming back and telling us that they see value once they recognize what it is that we're providing. And finally, because of the way that we're set up, and also because of the data that we're collecting, ultimately, the more cycles of usage a user goes through with Trestle, the more beneficial it is for them, and then the harder it is for them to leave. We do have a lot of competitors. However, the competitors are not directly in our space. Most of our competitors are focused on just one aspect of the process. And I think this comes from the fact that they don't have a lot of actual construction experience. And so they're focusing on solutions that ultimately just become another tool in the tool chest and not really solving for the overall problem of the process being less efficient. So in fact, using their tools actually makes the process even less efficient. And ultimately, we're raising $2 million in order to accelerate our product development, and then really to be able to support the large funnel of customers that we will have, even just the 3 pilots at launch. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So Victor, first of all, you can stop sharing your screen,
Cool.
but that was great. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let me start with kind of my overarching feedback, which is really good presentation layer. Presentation was professional, well designed. That's great. A couple notes, and everyone, again, this was a good presentation with a good underlying business. Victor, by the way, I'm our prop tech guy, so we can chat after on the actual business. But it's a good business. So with that said, on the presentation layer, a couple things. We all do this as founders because fundamentally these experiences are kind of terrifying and terrible. Don't apologize for what you're not. Prop tech sexy to me, you know what I mean? Don't apologize for what you're not. If someone's not investing in prop tech, they're not going to apologize for not being crypto because all the crypto investors got wiped out. So it's all good. Don't worry about that stuff. Also, for a deck, there's just way too many words on a page. So, I would definitely think about, just reducing the number. How do you try and say it in a few less words sort of deal? With that said, I'm now going to share my screen and kind of do a quick walkthrough of some things that I saw, and we'll chat through them. Okay, cool. Everyone can see my screen. So amazing. So this is your deck. Great start. So this makes sense, except you state contractors lose $3.5 million. That's not a lot of money. Is that an individual contractor? What's the aggregate? What type of contractor? It's kind of hard to know what this means. And there's way too much information in here. It's kind of hard. I would make the number seem bigger. It's probably much more than this. So I would aggregate the number and be like, this is costing each contractor millions of dollars. So you've done the thing here, and this is for everyone. There needs to be a slide on what your vision is. This is half vision, half product. You started out by telling me your vision, but then you started telling me what your product does. All founders, the DocSend data is pretty clear. The third most viewed slide of all your slides is a slide that just says your vision in plain English. And Victor, you did a good job verbally of telling me that, but then you started talking about like learnings and performance data, your product. So what you want is vision, and then your next slide is product. Here is the solution I'm building to achieve that vision. Also, I will say that in general, screenshots look like screenshots. This screenshot doesn't look any different from any other screenshot. And like a screenshot that says designed for construction, it's not like super valuable. Don't take it the wrong way, we all do it. But screenshots are kind of useless because like, I'm like, no one's ever looked at a screenshot and been like, that product is amazing for a SaaS tool, because they all kind of look the same. This is great. Include a link to your LinkedIn so I can creep you. This is great, although you can just put a star at the bottom and then like include all this other stuff as a link. That's what I mean, like too many words. Like VCs barely know how to read at the best of times. Like we have an attention span for Twitter. So like we're functional idiots. So we don't read stuff. We skim because of how important we are. You've met VCs and you're like, did you even read the damn deck? We definitely aren't reading the fine print. Problem is only getting worse. Okay, so if this is a problem thing, put that problem, like your slide 2 was a problem. Your grouping is all over the place. So you've got slide 2 is a problem and slide 7 is a problem. Just group it, like big problem, getting worse. I have a vision to solve it. This is how I'm solving it. This is kind of grouped everywhere. I assume that founders ask potential customers whether or not they should start stuff before they quit their very high paying job to get paid nothing and get abused by a bunch of VCs. So I'm glad you talked to companies, but like, I kind of figured you didn't quit your 6-figure job to just do this because you were bored. You don't need to include this.
Okay.
We're building something people want. The timelines, guys, as a general rule, no one cares about your timelines. The struggle is real, but the struggle is internal. I just want to know, this should be a traction slide. Just be like, we have one pilot in LOI, we have a second pilot, and waiting to negotiate price, at least give me a range. Like we get that you're a price taker at this point. Like this is how everyone does pricing at early stage. Please buy it. And then you price it too low. We all do it. It's fine. Who are you kidding? But like, give me a range. Is it 10 grand? Is it 100 grand? You're like, it's more than we thought. I don't know how much you thought. Like I have no context. And then this third thing, like second meeting scheduled. What I'd love to see behind this is we've got one that's about to sign, one that's close, and then here's our pipeline. This doesn't really help me because your pricing is entirely made up. It also looks like you're going for SMBs, enterprise, and middle market. You're not attacking all three. And I doubt that an SMB is going to pay you $210,000. Unless you're defining SMB as 300 million. That's not a small business. A company that does $300 million is a big business. So like just put 0.5% and be like, we're targeting the enterprise, because that was not clear. Gotcha. SMBs in venture land means like you have 3 people at a marketing agency who bought Slack. The biggest company we've ever funded had like 7 people when we funded it. That's an SMB. You right now are an SMB. 300 million, not an SMB. Just a B. Okay.
Yeah.
Making waves in the blue ocean. This slide doesn't say anything. All sales processes ensure value recognition for all stakeholders. That's what selling is. Critical ICP. Yeah, like who? Who are you selling to? I know who you're selling to because I do a lot of prop tech, like just in plain English. So guys, this is another one, and not to pick on Victor, he just volunteered to be picked on. It's not your fault, it's just your turn. So making waves in the blue ocean. What the fuck does that mean? We all do it. I literally am about to present something in 2 hours that says the fund of tomorrow today. What does that mean? I don't know, but it sounded good and I wrote it down and I never thought about it again. So I'm guilty of it also. Don't do shit like this. Just in plain English, like, who are you selling to and how? We've got a sales-led motion. Awesome. We're going to go talk to the vice president of business development. Great. And then we're also going to talk to the head estimator. Awesome. Amazing. Sales cycles are 3 to 6 months. Great. You spent 20 years in the industry. I believe you. That is much more helpful than whatever the hell this is. This doesn't say anything. All AI products get better with every use. That's how artificial intelligence works. Okay, this is, again, all of us do this. There's 2 kinds of competitive slides. There's the 4 quadrants one with you over here, the companies you're actually worried about over here, the big companies that aren't going to do this here, and then a bunch of random bullshit filler over here. It's the 4 quadrants. I don't know why we decided this is a great way to look at stuff. It's not. This is also terrible. You do not compete with DocuSign in any way. DocuSign has nothing to do with what you do at all, except I guess I could close a deal and send it to someone. So no. So like, if there aren't other competitors, then put down what people are using it now. The other thing, guys, is you don't have to tell everyone everything all at once. You can also just not include this slide at all. Because the first thing you got to remember is a VC, the first thing I want to know is, do I care about this business? And then I want to learn about competitors. In our first meeting, that's all I'm trying to decide is, do I care about your business? So if you're in a big market with very clear competitors, it's good to talk about them. Victor, there's some people dancing around what you're doing, but to your point, and there's some, some other small businesses trying to do what you're doing. There's not like, you're not taking on an established player. So say that. Like, yeah, there's like parts of what we're doing. Just what is really helpful is not the 4 quadrants thing, which is always terrible, and not this, which is also always terrible. Because as you know, there's no feature you have right now that someone else couldn't copy. You're going to win because of your thesis, not because of your features. The raising thing is fine. Half the VCs will tell you don't put how much you're raising on the slide. Half will tell you to. I will admit that you're going to get mixed messaging and everything's fine. This pie chart is also not necessary, but like, sure. You know what you guys are going to spend your money on? All of you? Staff. Yeah. And then like Amazon credits. That's it. Those are the 2 things we know. Great presentation. And Victor, get my contact info from Maggie and let's continue the discussion.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. Really appreciate it.
All right. Who's next?
Awesome. We have Keely next from Zeta.
All right. Let's do it. 5 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Keely Catwells. I became disabled when I was 17 years old. And after losing a job due to discrimination, I founded my first company, C Talent, which I successfully sold to Whaler last year, which marked one of the largest investments ever made in disabled talent in the creative industries. And now I am the CEO and founder of Zeta. So LMSs are broken. They ignore 30% of the population who are disabled, and that is over 2 billion people. Out of the top 20 LMSs that dominate the market, 0 of them offer accessibility features that go beyond the basic compliance. So Zeta is a universally designed, accessible social learning platform. We partner with the largest employers to create opportunity for their existing and prospective workforces with accessible education, reskilling, upskilling, and career mobility. Our software includes sign language interpretation, transcripts, refreshable braille display options, AAA color contrast standards, and more. 1.4 billion is the size of the aging population, which is increasing year on year. And the estimated disability increase rate is set to land around 14%, which is an incredible increase from previous years. So our big picture, our TAM is the global LMS, e-learning, L&D market. And companies in this space currently include Moodle, Canvas, Guild, 360 Learning, Talent LMS. But we will start by dominating the entertainment, film, advertising, and media world, because that's where my connections are, that's my experience, and that's where my expertise is. So we think it would be a really easy win for us to position ourselves very competitively before jumping into the larger markets. Our MVP is built and ready to deploy to our 100+ waiting list. The waiting list is of creative users, and we also have a waiting list of potential enterprise clients, including Hello Sunshine, Reese Witherspoon's company, Paramount Plus, and Sesame Street. Our tech moat is our high accessibility standards and deliverability. And Zeta's fully accessible video player is just an example of how our software exceeds current market standards and competes with existing solutions, even within its just MVP stage. And the feedback so far has been truly phenomenal. So we have secured our first contract with NBC Universal. They are excited to initially create a course for disabled on-air talent for the 2024 Paralympics. There has also been discussions and potential to do the same for their producers, play-by-plays, technicians, access coordinators, gaffers, and all their behind-the-camera roles. So they're currently paying $70,000 in ARR, and that's access to the platform with a $55,000 add-on for course creation. We are replacing their existing consulting model with contractors, and we're also replacing their outdated training videos and providing additional access to untapped talent that they are consistently needing. So for the creative talent, it will be a freemium model, financially accessible for them. And our main source of revenue will be from the companies. Using an enterprise SaaS model, the NBC Paralympic team, as an example, they're paying $70,000 for that access to the software, and they've currently purchased one additional add-on. In terms of acquiring customers, we will do this through the C Talent portfolio, the company that I sold. I built relationships with all of the top studios, production companies, casting directors, and so on. And also my personal network. I'm on the board of Lady Gaga's foundation, advised for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and have a huge access to talent. In terms of our competitors, again, looking at 360 Learning, Talent LMS, Moodle, they all do not have accessible features beyond not very great captions. In the accessibility space, there is one company making accessible education and training, but they specifically only work with disabled talent and only place those disabled talent and get them ready for very disability-specific roles. So in addition to our tech moats, I am uniquely positioned to build this company. I built, as I mentioned, C Talent, which I sold, and have worked on many projects such as Disney's Avatar, with Netflix on Lady Chatterley's Lover, various other projects, and focus features on Champions. So I have an amazing tech team, incredibly lucky to work with the same team that built Calendly, the scheduling app. They built that from the inception to now a $3.5 billion company. They all either identify as disabled or have connections or family within the disability community, and they're excited to come on full time. They've been spending 40+ hours a week with me building the product. So we have built our MVP, I've put in personal funds, and we're currently raising 1.5 million in safes. And thank you so much for the time.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you very much for that presentation. That was great. And just give me one sec. I'm going to pull up your thing as well. And there we go. Okay. So first off, it's great to see entrepreneurs working on things that matter. So thank you, because if I see another great entrepreneur working on a thin application layer for an LLM, I'm going to punch myself in the face. So thank you for actually trying to make a sorely needed difference on this planet and spending your time doing that. That's first off. Second off, obviously, like, you're an experienced entrepreneur. You've been there, done that. It shows in everything you're doing. Very clear. And everyone else, do take a lesson here. This took me a very long time to learn. What she was doing first and foremost was telling a story instead of reading a bunch of slides. And in telling a story, it just becomes 10 times more engaging. So that's the big one here. On the actual deck, the problem makes a ton of sense. I will have the same feedback here. The vision stuff, like, you're a vision-led founder, you're a mission-led founder. This picture does it. You combined vision and product. The vision needs some room to breathe. It's the reason you've been able to recruit people. It's the reason why you've been successful. Just don't mix it in with like the product's the how. Like why we're here is the why. So just, you're a why person. Let that shine. It's how I'm sure you've been doing that your whole life. So do it in slide form. Same thing, this why now is really good, makes a lot of sense. And again, everyone, just a clear lesson on how, this is how VCs read. Like, ooh, big numbers, and then we like clap our little otter fins and we read the next slide. So like, this is unfortunately how our industry works. It's ridiculous, but you're participating in it. This is fine. Makes sense. This one is the video here as a send deck works. When you're presenting, it really doesn't. It's just visual clutter. So if you're sending this to me, great. If you're presenting it, just delete the screenshot and just have the words. It's also helpful if you show, what do you think your pipelines were? And put a number to it. Like it took till the backslide when I'm like, whoa, NBC's paying you like 100 grand, 125, but 75 in SaaS rev, right? So they're paying 75 and you've got like all these people, like, what does that look like? Do you have $2 million sitting in pipe already? I would guess working backwards, you probably do. It's a big number. That should go here instead of the screenshot. And also, this slide is actually called traction. Your MVP being built and ready is in your product slide. Like our product is built and this is what it is. And then this is a traction slide. So just, make sure you have those things different. It came through when you talked, it doesn't come through in deck form. And again, you paper over a lot of the fact that the deck is just okay with the fact that you're great, which I'm going to file under not a problem, but there's ways the deck can be improved. Same thing. So this is actually revenue. So, and I would actually reverse the order of these. So the first thing I want to hear is, because pipeline's a maybe, right? Every founder is like, these are all the people that may give us money. There's never been a founder in history that doesn't have a pipeline. That's not a thing. But you have a contract. Put that first. Be like, these are the people that signed, and these are all the people that are going to sign. It makes this slide land much better when I already know you signed a customer. It also gives me $125,000 for a company at your stage, as you well know, is insane. If you're already getting these value of contracts, like there's a big business here, right? But it took me till this slide to understand that. Also, VCs tend to drift off. I don't, because I have to give feedback, but they're at home, they've got their, 6 screens. They're probably like tweeting about the debt ceiling or whatever they're an expert on this week. And, whatever. This is one that is going to come up as a potential problem. So you're going to need to address the fact that you functionally have 2 business models in a really small team. So you're doing the true SMB thing here, and then you're also doing the enterprise thing here. If this is just like your SMB thing's just sitting there and people can use it or not, we're not throwing anything against this. Doing those 2, this is a product-led growth motion. This is a pure enterprise sales motion. As you all know, those are 2 totally different motions. With $1.5 million, it's going to be impossible to execute both well. If this is just like it's sitting here and if people want to use it, awesome, I don't really care. This is really what I'm focused on. Make that clear. I would get worried about the trying to execute on 2 strategies. No one at your stage can do that well. It's not possible. Awesome, a lot of words. Again, my same comment about the Adobe, it's just no. I would make it really clear, so what I want to hear from you is what is going to make these companies actually buy this? Like, how much do they care about the regs? How much do they care about being inclusive? In a perfect world, I wouldn't really care a lot. That unfortunately is not the world we inhabit. So I want to hear look, all these guys don't have it, and here's why companies are going to move. Because we're the only ones that have it. And there's one other company in our space, but they're not really doing what we're doing. Because the Adobe thing, to your point, not a competitor, really has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's there, but not really. And that was my point about the quadrants. You always just have one. There's always one square where you're I'm just going to put something in it. So yours was Adobe, which fine, but they're not Do you ever worry about them?
No.
Right, it's just on there, so like kill it.
Okay.
You should be the first slide. You're an exited founder who's wildly impressive. Everything you say has more credibility, and you kind of tried to do that by like squeezing them in on the title slide. That's the right instinct. But don't, you if anything, you're like more humble than you need to be. This is your second slide. You're a previously exited founder in the space. Everything you say after is more credible. Yeah, I built a company in the States and sold it. It was huge. I also like talked to the president and Lady Gaga. What's up? This is great. The only thing I would say here, just from a slide perspective, you were here to walk me through it. Everyone, guys, we all do this also. The logos at the bottom, I don't know which one goes with which. So include a link, like hyperlink, so I can see a LinkedIn, and then put the logos of the person under like where they were. I don't know who worked where. And then the link to their LinkedIn, but this is very good. Your explanation for them is great. Ask makes sense. Love that A, it's great that you were successful enough to put personal money into it, and B, it shows a lot of conviction. So this is great. I don't think you need the summary. Just do this verbally. Anyone reading it can go back and read. And I'm never going to read a 6-division thing while you're talking. So just summarize it on the thank you. Just have a thank you slide and just be like, so in summary. Yeah, guys, I would almost never include these. If it's being said to me, I can go back and read. And if it's not, also definitionally, if you need to summarize something that's only 10 pages, you haven't done the best job in 10 pages. You did a good job, so don't worry about it. And same thing, get my contact info. Would be interested in continuing the discussion, but great presentation, just a little work on the deck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Maggie, who we got?
Awesome. So we have Ion next. Ion? Sip Science?
My screen right now.
There you are.
You guys see the screen?
We got you.
Cool. So my name's Ian, and I'm the CEO of Sip Science. We're a data company servicing the beverage alcohol industry. My background's in market research in the entertainment industry, and I'm really lucky to be tackling this with a CRO who's a veteran in the alcohol analytics space, and a VP of engineering with a PhD in physics, and a tech team experience with B2B ad tech products. The problem we're tackling is that alcohol companies have good information on consumer behaviors inside of grocery stores, but they know next to nothing about what's happening inside of bars and restaurants. These brands are spending $500 million a year on research to fill the gap and guide the distribution of $2 billion worth of ads. But almost all of this research is coming from surveys and focus groups and other self-reported data sources that everyone knows is really expensive and inaccurate. Our solution is a B2C app called Sip. Sip is offering contactless payments at bars, as well as 50% discounts on up to 50 drinks a month to users who pay a fee. This is allowing us to collect consistent real-time data on habits in the on-premise. Historically, regulators have stopped third parties like Groupon from offering alcohol discounts because they don't like non-liquor licensees taking a cut of drink revenues. Sip Science is the only company to offer alcohol discounts across 33 states consistently because we're not taking a dime from the drink sales. We're just introducing bars to users that want discounts. There's a lot of contactless payment solutions in the market today. While our competitors are B2C companies aiming for adoption from anyone and everyone, Sip Science is a B2B company focused on a very specific target demo. We're collecting a statistically significant sample of orders placed by the 20% of adults who consume 91% of alcohol in the market. Our prime user is a millennial who goes out a lot, makes good money, but is still swayed by discounts and embraces digital payments. Alcohol brands covet insights on these high volume millennials because their decisions can still be influenced through ads. After getting our regulatory approval, we conducted a test with 25 bars in a single Manhattan neighborhood and 2,600 users. Over half of our first-time users converted from discount to full-price memberships, and a quarter of those converts were still active after 2 years. Our users ordered an average of 22 drinks month after month via our app, so they saved more than $60 a month, accounted for 5% of our bar's drink revenues. In summary, our users are saving a healthy amount of money. Our bars are getting guaranteed revenues from subscribers that are pre-buying drinks. And in the process, we're collecting the most consistent data in the industry. Those results helped us procure over a dozen LOIs from major alcohol brands. Companies like Anheuser-Busch are going to pay low six figures for our data, but that's just a prelude to conducting custom projects with each of Anheuser's major brands. Brands are going to have direct access to our users via the app, which they could use to share custom surveys and A/B test advertisements. So this is our roadmap for eliminating focus groups with real-time insights. To attract the 25,000 panelists we want, to monetize data at scale, we're onboarding 400 bars across 8 cities. Our primary competitive advantage in reaching that is a go-to-market agreement with Toast POS. It's the leading POS system in the industry, used at almost 70% of our target venues. Toast GTM lets us integrate with venues at the click of a button, which is kind of the holy grail to expediting sales with bars and restaurants. Toast has given us some valuable resources, but our execution is going to be carried out by an agency that promotes Anheuser-Busch's products on the ground with promoters in all 50 states. And we'll be relying on targeted online ads and referral bonuses to reach the 3,000 target consumers we want in each of our markets. We're focused on scaling in Chicago and Denver through the rest of this year, where we're already under contract for a pilot project with a beer conglomerate. And we'll use the traction in these 2 markets to close a Series A next year to go nationwide and unlock bigger data revenues per our LOIs. Raised $2 million to date to achieve what we've gotten: the regulatory approval, the market-ready app, a BI engine that's already doing work with alcohol brands. Right now, we're raising $1 million bridge round to activate Chicago and Denver and put us in a position to do the Series A next year. Thanks.
Great, awesome. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Let me just do the whole screen share. Oh, if you could just kill your screen share, I'll kick mine off. Amazing, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so first off, thank you. Great, really good presentation layer, really clear, really concise. And everyone out there, the ability to be clear and concise and just kind of through it without rushing is really, really hard, but you just saw a really good example of that. Also, as cover pages go, this is as good as it gets. It's clean, it's clearly well designed, it explains exactly what it is without like vague, like changing the world tomorrow, you know, like those kind of things which don't really tell you anything. That part's great. This is great. It lets me know who the team is. Same comment here. Always include links to LinkedIn. And then it's not clear to me whenever the logos are all like mashed at the bottom. Who did what, where, when. Maybe this does line up with them, but like I don't know. It's also kind of helpful to know what you did if you're at like a big place like Sony, like there's 800 million things you could have done there. But if not, then just include a LinkedIn so we can check. Super helpful. This is a really good problem slide, really explains it, has numbers, that's great. You know, encapsulated it and then proved it, that's great. So here, what you want here is your vision in 2 to 3 sentences. So you can have meet, sip, app, but then what is your vision in 2 to 3 sentences? How is the world different because you guys exist? And the way everyone can think about their vision slide is when you IPO and you're on, you know, the Business News Network and someone's introducing you and they're like, this is Ian founder, CEO of SIP Science or SIP App. SIP App does, and then what those 2 to 3 sentences are, that's your vision. That's what you're trying to achieve. So it ended up coming through because the rest was clear and concise, but this slide doesn't communicate anything. This is your product. That's great. So then you'd have your vision, and this is the product. I would be a little, when you say consumer facing, it makes it sound like you're a B2B solution. You're really not. Like, you are, but you're not. So just clearly articulating that actually most of your revenue drivers is going to be B2B. And then same thing, app is, you do have an app, but you are a platform. So when people hear consumer as an app, they think TikTok, or, like I have an app from 10 years ago. That's not what you're doing. So you just, again, it all came out in the wash, but just some things to watch for. This, by the way, is also a very good product slide. So when I said no screenshots, these screenshots work because you're actually explaining a flow for what they do. This is helpful. Explain some stuff. Again, I'm not going to beat people over the head. By the way, Bbot's a foreign company. We know Steve quite well. We funded him twice. So we're pretty familiar with Toast and Bbot in this space. So again, not really a competitor of yours, but so that's my point. You had to put something, so you put something there, but like Bbot's not a competitor, like, you know the business. So yeah, just same thing about these don't really work. This is great. This really explains it. The value piece, I didn't actually see this in the other deck. This is something that's always good to have, explaining what your product is and then the impact of that product, what the value prop is really helpful. And then results. So these are 2 impacts, makes a lot of sense, really helpful. The one kind of major structural comment I would have about this is the same comment I had here. I would find a way to explain the big opportunity that's on the B2B side. This is the biggest opportunity you've described so far, right? And it's on slide 8. You have $39 million in revenue under LOI. You haven't even described this business model yet. So it's all sounded kind of consumer-y till now. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, and by the way, I got 40 mil in my back pocket, no big deal. So you're going to want to, there might need to be some clarification of the business model. And your vision could take care of a lot of it. We're a platform that has a consumer app that allows, big alcohol brands and advertisers to blah, 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 blah. But that vision slide is going to need to do some work on clarifying what your business model is. It is not 100% clear your business model is to this point. It becomes clear, but VCs don't listen to stuff. This is great. You've got a channel distribution partnership, made it really clear why that works. I know Mosaic really well because their head office used to be right next to mine in Toronto, Canadian company. This is great. You're clearly explaining. I wouldn't share this first off. I would, because again, if I don't care about your business, this is like pretty proprietary information. I wouldn't just send this around. Same deal. I would just be like, thank you, currently raising $1 million. And then this is appendix. So if I'm like, I love it, you can be like, let me tell you how we got to here. But this is how do I say this, Jonah? This isn't necessarily first date information. But really, really good, really strong, and ship it over. Like I said, we know Bbot, we know this space. But yeah, really good. Just I would really work through the explaining the business model more concisely, because there's so many more B2B SaaS or B2B investors than there are consumer investors.
Thank you.
Amazing. Awesome.
Thanks. We'll open up to questions. If anybody wants to jump off mute, any brave souls want to jump off mute and ask any questions?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go.
Hi, Jonah. My name is Amrita. I'm the founder of Good to Eat. It's a marketplace for fresh daily family-sized meals at budget-friendly prices. I have a quick question for you. So you had mentioned there are 2 formats for presenting the competitor's slide. You mentioned the first one, which is a 2x2. What is the second one that is preferred?
The second one is what you saw. It's that feature comparison. They're both terrible. And it's not, founders, you all have these in your deck. So there's either like my features, and then you have like 5 check marks. And then you have 4 other companies, and they have somewhere between 1 and 3 check marks. And that's how they all look. And except that neither of those is actually an interesting way of telling me why you're going to win. And again, they're all terrible because it's really hard. So like, instead, just tell me in words, like, this is our competitive advantage and differentiation, and this is why we're going to win. And if there's some companies that, you know, are in your space, then you can talk about them, but just be like, in words, like, this company's doing this, but they don't do X. Features at your stage, you know, your all seed stage or before businesses, there's no feature you have that 3 engineers couldn't build in 6 months. And since every big company has tons of engineers lying around, your competitive advantage is not your feature set. It's your approach, your thesis, you. So features don't work, and those matrices are just brutal.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
Since there's no one else, I'll ask my second question. I had 2 questions written down. The second question is sorry, were you going to ask me something?
No, do it. Go for it. Shoot.
So you had mentioned in the team slide, you had mentioned, hey, I don't want to know the mapping of who comes from where. How important is that? Just curious.
Not super important, but if you're gonna have logos, like, that's not, you know, that's probably not how you want to do it. So what you probably want to do is, like, what I want to know is, like, what is the relevant information? And people did this verbally, like, Keely did this when she's like, oh, like, they worked at Calendly together from 0 to IPO. Great. So they've built scaling tech products. That's the relevant piece of information. So I just want to know, when you say, like, this is my VP engineering, what have they done previously that leads you to believe that they were the right person to hire? And if it's like, if you just have a logo, like, they worked at Sony, it's like, well, 110,000 people work at Sony. And Sony is also that classic Japanese company where you're like, I'd like a lawnmower. And then you're like, cool. And you're like, I'd like a motorcycle. And then, like, we have something crazy to tell you. We'll sell you that too. So, like, Sony does everything. So, I mean, I need to know what you did there.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
Jonah, maybe you can talk a little bit about, like, what the ideal number of slides to, like, send versus present are, and, like, how somebody
so
differently.
In general, and, you know, there's sometimes where this isn't true, but 12 slides or less. If you're not able to do it in 12 slides or less, you're probably over explaining some stuff. The things that really matter are team, market, thesis, so your vision, and what the market opportunity is. And those are the 4 things that VCs really care about. And so you got to remember, like, there's no way in a slide deck I can understand your product. I can get, like, an idea of it, but your product is a how. Your product is how you achieve your vision. What you need me to buy is that your vision is a vision worth buying. And then at some point before I write a check, I'm going to ask to see your product. You'll give me a demo. So 12 slides, you always want to have team, you always want to have vision, you always want to have why you're going to win. And we saw some of those in the form of why now. Ion had a different way of doing it over a couple slides, which is totally fine. I want to see your traction. If you're early stage, then I still want to see, like, what's your validation? Like, who have you spoken to, you know, that actually wants this? But you definitely, you know, want to keep it short. And you can use your send deck also as your presentation deck, but you really want to get to clarity and a story, a clear story of why you're going to win.
Chris in the chat. Oh,
Go ahead, Mike.
Somebody was, oh, there's a raised hand. Go ahead.
Okay, good day. Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay, my
Yeah.
name is Joseph Ololobu, and I'm from Shopee, Nigeria. We're an African e-commerce setup that delivers goods and services under 30 minutes. We're present in like 2 cities, so we're trying to get funding to scale. So I wanted to ask if there are like if there are sites or platforms where African startups can apply, you know, because we don't really have a lot of channels. If I can get like suggestions.
So we've funded any number of them. If you just get your information to Maggie, I'll connect you with the founders of Sote and Alvin, who are also in Nigeria that we funded, and they can give you a much better answer. I don't know offhand, but we have funded a bunch of startups out of Nigeria. I don't know the fundraising market there. Bokar on my team has a much better hook into that market.
Okay, so how do I communicate?
I can connect.
Okay, how do I connect with her? Because the industry in question it was validated at $6.5 billion as of 2022.
Yes. Yeah,
I'll send
again,
you
I'm
an
not.
email.
Yeah, Maggie will flip you a note. I'm happy to connect you to founders that know the market better. I don't want to speak out of school of the market. I don't know. We have some experience with it, the fund, but it's just not mine. I apologize.
Okay, so I should contact her then.
That'd be great.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Chris, I see you had a question in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask on here. My name's Chris. Working on part of learning intelligence, and we're leaning into the educational gaming space with AI. We have some like in-app purchases within our app and a much broader vision. But my question is like, what is the best way to sort of forecast revenue and tell that story before you really have all the numbers? I think given sort of the excitement around the AI space, it could attract investor interest. But with that, we're working hard to kind of build your traditional sort of portfolio of numbers and outreach with teachers and educational institutions, but we just don't have a lot of that data yet, but still would like to begin to just even have, initial conversations with some VC. And we're wondering, like, how would you approach that situation? Would you wait or would you move forward as is?
So you would make it up, which I think every VC understands that you're basically just making it up. So, I mean, you're making it up, right? Like I could be like, we could pretend that I had an MBA and like, but you make it up. So the question is more, what do VCs want to see? What they want to see is if you're raising a pre-seed round, you've got like a clear path to a seed round, which is usually like $500,000 in annual revenue. And then from there, the way to think about it is triple, double. So they want to see you triple revenue the next 2 years and then double the 2 years after that. So clear path to 500K and then triple, double. It's going to be made up. Everyone understands it's made up. So just take what limited data you have. And then what's more interesting. So here's the thing about broad projections at this stage. No one in history has ever won a deal based on your projections because they're made up. You can lose a deal based on your projections if they're unreasonable and show that you don't understand your market. Or if you're like, we're going to get to 10 million on one engineer, like you're not. So it needs to be pretty clear that you understand your cost inputs, the cost basis of the business, and that you've got a reasonable like idea of what people's propensity to pay is and how that scales. So yeah, you never win with that. You can lose with it. It's good for you to understand. So when you're asking me for $1 million, it's like, why $1 million? And so like, that's when people do like, I'm going to spend 39% on engineering. I don't read that, but at some point, if I was doing due diligence on a deal, I'd be like, send me your pro forma and you'd send me a budget. And if you're like, I'm only hiring salespeople, I'd have some questions.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Eli, I believe you're next.
Hi, I'm Eli Farhart, founder and CEO of Catch Digital ID. And what we do is that we protect consumers and businesses from fraud by making personal information useless to scammers. I have a question about valuation and whether it should be on the deck. I've been asked so many times, okay, you're raising 1.8 million, but your valuation is a little bit too high. What's the workaround to find a better way to convey our valuation? And can we have two different valuations based on what we're able to raise with this tough environment right now?
Okay, so a couple things. You don't get to decide your valuation. Valuation is definitionally, and this is true for all assets on earth, something that a buyer and a seller agree to. So you, founder, and us, VC, independently never get to decide our valuation. So I can't be like, you're worth 5 because you have to say yes. And you can't be like, I'm worth 10 because I have to say yes. So that's one. So putting your valuation on your deck, unless you've already got a lead or you've closed most of the round, is meaningless because you don't get to decide. That's a discussion and negotiation you're going to have with the buyer, in this case of VC. That's point one. Two, the biggest driver of your valuation is going to be how much money you're raising. VCs want to get between 15 to 25% of your business. So if you're raising $1.8 million, most VCs just say you are worth 4x that. So you're worth 6.4 pre-money or 8.2 post-money. That is the math. And so if you're like, I'm raising 1.8 at a 20, there's going to need to be some very clear reasons as to why. And most people in this market are just going to say no. So I don't think your problem is a communication problem. Well, so it might also be a communication problem, but what you can say is like, we're raising 1.8, our target range is 12 to 15, and then see how people respond. But you don't get to choose a valuation. If you're like, we're 15, like our fund would just be like, I don't know, unless you've got like a real revenue number, it'd probably be like, we're probably just not going to pay that. And that's okay. Maybe someone will. But I would not put valuations on your deck because unless you've already got a lead. So if you've got a lead who's put in 2 at 12 and you have a term sheet, then you're at 12. You can just tell people, I am raising the final 1 million at 12. I already have 2 committed. Great. But if you don't have that, you don't have a valuation. You have an ambition.
Excuse me, just following up on this. So does that mean I should put a range where like I'm raising 1.8 for 15 to 20% and then let them assume the valuation I'm throwing in here?
I wouldn't put anything. Well, if you put a rank, if you put a percentage and a number, then you are functionally putting a valuation. My point is, you're not deciding the valuation. A valuation is a conversation that you're having with the person who wants to invest. And the first person who wants to invest and you will set a valuation. So unless you've already got money committed on this round, you don't have a valuation. So there's nothing to put. So once someone says, I'm interested, or if people are like, what's your valuation? It's just like, I'm thinking this range, and then see how they respond. You're telling me that multiple people have told you it's too high. If you don't have investment and you want investment and a number of people have told you that it's too high, it's your choice whether or not to listen to that feedback. But it sounds to me like you are getting feedback.
I am indeed. So in this case, the best way is to
we just
come
don't
up with
like it.
less money to raise.
Sorry?
So does that mean if we find it difficult to raise currently, is the better way is to lower the raise?
Well, it's to lower the valuation.
Okay, thank you so much.
And go from there, right? Like, so if someone's like, that valuation is too high, it's like, okay, is there an acceptable valuation that you might look at this deal? And if they're like 8 and you can live with that, then, do you like the partner? How much do you need the money? It's hard out there right now. So it just depends on, people usually hold to their valuation as a direct function of how much they need the money.
Thank you so much for the input.
No problem. Maggie, I got time for one more.
Okay, Amrutha, I believe you had one.
All right. So my question, Jonah, is how good or bad is seed stage funding currently? Two parts to that. What percentage of the investments you made last quarter was seed stage? There's conflicting information. Just trying to figure out.
So let me start with the market. It depends on your starting perspective. So if your starting perspective is that it was the way in 2021, then it's really, really bad. That's never going to come back in my view, ever. If your starting point is like when I raised my financing, like in 2015, 2017, it's slightly better than that. It's about 2018 out there. So it's slower, it's harder, valuations are lower, but you know, there's still financing. It's just really hard to get. It was hard to get before, and now it's really hard to get. Second question, the forum question. The forum question, what percentage? So never mind as a percentage. We fund 90 pre-seed businesses a year and about 15 to 20 seed businesses a year. So never mind, like those are the numbers. And we're actively writing checks. We're writing about 8 checks a month. Unlike other funds, we're not just taking meetings.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks everyone for joining. I dropped the Pitch Us form, the link to that in the chat. So if you, I'll send the recording to everyone after the call. You'll all get an email. But thanks all for joining, and thanks all for participating.
Thanks everyone. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck out there.